Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nic Chaillan. Thanks so much for joining this first actual Q&A live session with Learn with Nick, and we're going to be taking your questions live. So if you have questions you've not already asked on the chat or on YouTube or Twitter, LinkedIn, make sure you start posting the questions now in the comment section below. Start with a Q so we know it's a question. Also, if you want to share you're here with us, please put your name so we can highlight you on the screen. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes, so stay tuned. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nic Chaillan. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to have a lot of people online here, so I'm going to be taking your questions live. This is the first session we're going to do when it comes to me taking questions live in a Q&A setting. Back to what we used to do when I was the Chief Software Officer of the Air Force. We used to do that all the time, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be a little bit different from what you've seen in the nick of time. So feel free to start asking questions. We have a lot of questions on the chats from different social media platforms. If you see us maybe a little bit behind on Learn with Nic or LinkedIn, you should try YouTube. YouTube usually is doing a better job at streaming live without the 10 to 15 seconds delay that you may see on other platforms. So check it out and let us know which one is performing the best. It's always good for us to know. Like I said, we're going to take your questions live today. No questions out of bounds. So if you have any questions, feel free to start asking them in the comment section below. We're going to start first by looking at some of the questions we got in the last release of our video on Learn with Nic, where you see the Uber hack lessons learned and what we know. And hopefully you had the chance to check it out. We walk you through a lot of great information when it comes to what happened with the 18-year-old hacker that managed to get into Uber, and really a step-by-step review of the first infiltration, and then, of course, of the lateral movement to administrative access to be able to get to the crown jewel all the way to the entirety of the Uber's network. So if you have missed the video, feel free to check it out, and we'll walk you through a few of the questions we already got. So as a reminder, we launched Learn with Nic about a month ago now. We have a lot of great members. Thank you so much for subscribing. A lot of Fortune 500 telcos, governments, financial sector companies joined us. And if you've not tried it yet, please do that. You can subscribe, and you have the coupon code here with 50% discounts for military, civilians, and veterans. And you see also the Let's Beat China for early adopters coupon for you to become a member. We're going to also launch a great partnership in the next couple of weeks with hands-on learning and all the way to certificates with the CNCF Linux Foundation. So it's going to be a lot of great things. We're going to be able to share with you hands-on exercises, cloud labs. So check it out. And again, if you have questions, always start by a Q, so we know it's a question. We already have all your questions you asked on LinkedIn and Twitter, and of course, Learn with Nic on the chat. So let us know what you have in mind and what kind of topics you like to cover. Also, if you watched the Learn with Nic videos, love to get your feedback on what topic we should focus on. Did you like the fact that we are doing these videos on the hacks, and does that bring value to you? Being able to track more or less on a weekly basis what's happening, and what kind of lessons learned we can take from those breaches. I think that's a pretty unique set of content, and I don't think you've seen something like that elsewhere. So again, if you missed that video, check it out. It's open to everyone, and I'm gonna drop the link here on the chat so you have access to that if you've missed it. Of course, if you've not seen what we released, we have a lot of great categories of content on Learn with Nic. So if you find maybe some topics to be lacking, please let us know what you would want us to talk about. So again, here is the video on the Uber hack. If you missed it, go check it out. I think you're going to find that it's much more than what you've seen in the news. People dismissing it as an 18-year-old hacker kid that just used social engineering methodology to get into Uber. It's way more sophisticated. I mean, it's not the most sophisticated attack we've seen, but the fact is they stole the password by buying the logs on the dark web, and then they managed to MFA fatigue the user, which is pretty simple. And then, the lateral movement is more interesting, finding the cron jewel, the hard-coded scripts with, of course, the break glass password, which should never be hosted anywhere online anyways. So that was probably the largest mistake made by the Uber team, on top of hard-coding passwords at all into PowerShell. So check that out. If you've missed the video, I think it's going to give you a lot of insights. We also walk through at the end of the video, we walk you through a lot of the lessons learned we have and the things you could do to prevent the same issue from happening, beginning with scanning your source code and files with a password slash secrets scanner, so you can find those hard coded into your scripts. And obviously, you don't want to have that. So make sure you use those capabilities. And of course, making sure that non-person entity accounts are really using the principle of least privilege. You don't want to have bloated non-person entity account. I always find it interesting that particularly with the adoption of DevSecOps and CI/CD pipeline, that a lot of people think about humans in terms of least privilege and enforcement of access control mitigations, but they forget about all the system-to-system accounts and all the different tools, often having very bloated, if not administrator access to different tools for no valid reasons. So think about that when you think about the need of hardening your DevSecOps pipeline, you Git repo, and all the tools you use throughout your CI/CD pipeline. So check out that video if you missed it. Of course, as always, if you want to subscribe to the nickofTime.tv, do that so you can get notifications about the next videos. Now, when it comes to the Q&A, we're going to take your questions live, and just feel free to just type it into the chat, and we're going to get started with some of the questions we got first already on LinkedIn when we announced the show. So, and I'm not picking the questions. I pick them randomly. I don't avoid any subject or prioritize any subject. Okay, so so the question here was asked about are you going to come? So I guess they're asking if I'm going to be back in the Department of Defense anytime soon. And I guess the answer is I will be back, but probably not until the new administration comes in 2025. So I'm being offered a pretty significant role in 2025, and I will say yes to be back. And so unfortunately, until that happens, I will be helping from the sidelines and the outside. But yes, I will be back in the department, hopefully in 25, depending on how the election goes. But I think that will be very important for us to be back and be able to keep pushing digital transformation, innovation, and kind of push back on the complacency that we've seen recently, particularly with some of the debacles we've seen in Afghanistan, and really with the lack of agility when it comes to zero trust and cloud adoption, and really a lot of programs going back to the wrong practices with waterfall and things like that. So thank you, and yes, we're excited to have that chance to come back and serve. So we'll do that. All right, there's a question on the chat. Does the DoD still primarily use Kubernetes, or since the JEDI situation they have adopted Amazon, or are they using a combination? So, and I'm going to try to copy that on the screen so you can see the question. The issue, I guess, is we have so many different social media that you don't always get to see all the questions. So first, I guess when it comes to DevSecOps and orchestration, certainly Kubernetes as an orchestration mechanism is the primary choice for the department. Now, when it comes to cloud providers, of course, you can run Kubernetes on Amazon Azure, Oracle, and on-premise, on weapons, on jets, on bombers. So it doesn't really matter. So keep that in mind. It doesn't tie you up in any way when it comes to the flexibility you have with clouds. But certainly with JEDI, obviously was not awarded, so JEDI is not a thing anymore. They're creating JWCC, which is a new cloud contract that's being competed in the near future by DISA. It's very slow. In the meantime, Cloud One is already massively used. DISA has failed, and DoD has failed to be relevant for the last 5 years when it comes to cloud capabilities. And so what you've seen is the inability of the department to deliver on JEDI, despite some of the former defense digital service leaders telling me that that was the biggest success of DDS, which is complete nonsense. And so, JEDI is not a thing, which Microsoft had won JEDI, but that wasn't really awarded for real. And JWCC is kind of the same principle, but will be multi-cloud, which is what I had preached anyways. Cloud One is already multi-cloud with 5 cloud providers, so that's already happening. So clearly, JWCC will be pushing different cloud providers options. Cloud One is already in use and is a great option, and you can run Kubernetes on all of that. And certainly the department does not want to get locked into a single cloud provider. So Kubernetes gives you the abstraction layer that you want to have to make sure you're not getting locked in to Kubernetes. And I'm going to share with you, that's the beauty of Run with Nic. We have released video on pretty much every topic to kind of do deep dives on why we picked Kubernetes and why this matters. And so I'm going to post this on the chat here so you can take a look at that here. And if you've missed that video, check it out. We explain on the step-by-step guide why we think Kubernetes is a must for the department and for pretty much any organization that's competing and wants to move at the pace of relevance with that baked-in security, right? You don't want to have that lack of balance between velocity and security. So that's obviously very important as well. All right, so let's go to a next question now. I'm gonna copy that. All right, that's a great question. I'm gonna copy from Run with Nic this time on the chat here, and here we go. Our dear friend recently retired from the Army, and he's a new product manager in tech, and he's involved in work with Space Camp, the amazing Space Camp Level Up, and some of the DAF Cybers. And he's asking what are the top skills, qualities for a project manager. It's a tough question, right? Because it depends on the project. At the same time, there's a few key things that I think are essential. Of course, the managing of people and empowering people and delegating and empowering people at the lowest level to get the job done and really give them the chance to contribute and they understand better the problems than we do. So really kind of that notion of delegation / empowerment is really important for a good PM. At the same time, you also need to be able to make decisions and cut through the noise. And even when people don't agree, you have to be often the final decision maker with, of course, feedback from your end users. So kind of the ability to engage and partner with your end users is essential. You have to have a pretty good technical background in the subject matter if you really want to be able to understand what's going on. So I think, if you don't have that technical background, and the deeper, the better. You don't need to be very deep, but I found that for me, when I created my companies and products, I really had to get my hands dirty. And if you talk to someone like Elon Musk, he's going to tell you that sleeping on the floor of the Model 3 pipeline for Tesla for 3 years from 2017, 18, 19 really was so important, first to save the company, but also to understand all the steps and what was wrong to really accelerate and optimize the delivery of vehicles. And so, having the ability to do that is so essential. So getting your hands dirty, not living in an ivory tower, disconnected from your end users and your team. So being accessible, knowing that anyone from any rank at any time can reach out to you and be able to give you feedback. Doesn't mean you always listen to it and you make decisions, in a vacuum, but it's certainly important to be able to do that as openly and broadly as possible. So that's probably some of the top skills. I'm sure I'm missing some, but the people culture slash tech piece, it's a balance. When I hear people say, culture is hard and tech is easy, I think it's wrong. First, culture is hard for sure, but tech is hard too. And if you don't invest in yourself, and that's why I honestly created Learn with Nic, because I couldn't find a place where you could go and get created, easy to understand, down to the point content. And now with the partnership we're going to be releasing in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see we're going to get hands-on exercises and ready all the way to the certificates. And I think it's going to be a great way to streamline someone, for example, that's moving from a Linux administrator background or maybe a networking administrator background to Kubernetes, certified Kubernetes administrator, certified Kubernetes security specialist, and things like that, right? So, that's kind of the thing I think about when it comes to empowerment. Invest in your team, give them time to learn. I used to give an hour a day to my team to learn. I think that's so essential that you do the same. So, take a step back and think about effectively what you would want to do when it comes to making sure your team is not stuck in time, and not only be able to catch up, but then keep up too, right? So, I was looking at a study from Trustsite that was saying that I think only 8% of the workforce in IT is, really well versed in cloud technologies, despite companies saying that 60% of their workload will be on the cloud. There's a massive disparity of adoption of an understanding of skills, the skills required for cloud adoption. And cloud adoption does not just mean, we're going to run on the cloud. We also mean cloud native, like Kubernetes on premise. That's still a cloud native technology. So that's something to think about, right? And as you can see on the chat, if you're on LinkedIn, and that's kind of the issue, I'm sorry, but we have so many platforms, so people unfortunately cannot see all of the chat combined in one place. That's not something, unfortunately, any of the platform we use consolidate, except on my screen. So I get to see every comments, but you don't. So I'm trying to highlight on the screen, great comments. There's a question about SAFe, and I'm going to do a full video on SAFe. And we had, Brian Finster from Defense Unicorn join us to talk about SAFe and, the SAFe framework, which I believe, and I'm not the only one, that it is anti-agile. It's just a waterfall bloated concept, really disguised as an agile methodology on paper. And quite honestly, I think companies that use it really end up having a lot of bloat. It's usually very convenient for companies stuck in a waterfall process. And so someone was asking what I thought of SAFe, and I don't recommend it. I don't recommend using it. I think you want to be lean. You want to be decoupled. SAFe was really designed pre-microservice / decoupling times, and so now that we're moving to Strangler patterns, so I'm gonna post. Yeah, I did a video that I hope you like. And by the way, I love to get your feedback on the videos, what to improve. We're gonna update them every 6 months. So if you find out we missed the point or we missed critical things on some of the topics, please do that and let us know what to improve, because that's so important for us to improve the content and to make it relevant to you. So here, as you can see, we have a Strangler pattern video to explain how to take a monolithic application and turn it into microservices, and how to size your team, the pizza team rule from Amazon, all these concepts, so essential, right, to your increase of velocity. And people don't realize sometimes that the velocity, obviously has an impact to your ability to compete, but then also to your baked-in security capabilities. And then you see companies move fast, but then get it straight into a wall because of because of the lack of security that you see with so many breaches. And you may think, oh, people get away with it, which is true, unfortunately, to some degree. But you also see now the government just released an OMB memo mandating agencies to start, requiring software bill of materials and software of no defects, which is a complete dream and complete nonsense. But they do require pretty stringent assessments of software. And so if you're going to do business with the Department of Defense or any of the U.S. Government agencies, you're going to need to step up the game when it comes to SBOM. And I'm surprised sometimes to see companies that are barely 2-3 years old, startups of the cloud native universe CNCF projects, have technical debt with dependencies that are very old. I was talking to a company that was created in 2018, and they were using a 2015 dependency that they didn't update since 2015. That's always interesting that you would be 3 years behind already from when you created the company, let alone now 4 years later. So that's not good. And I guess Alexander has a good point, right? He talks about the help with agile transformation. There's always a debate as far as, do you need to have a baby step between processes? I think it depends on the team. It depends on who you bring in to help you. I would argue with the right team, you can just rip the band-aid and jump straight. Just like, look at Africa, right? Africa, I remember helping a lot of nations in Africa, and they skipped the landline for the phones, right? Straight to mobile, right? And they didn't invest in landlines, and they just went straight to cell phones. It's kind of the same concept, right? You want to go straight to the point, and with the right team, you can do it, but you have to build the right culture and the right learning, and that's why I know I keep talking about Learn with Nic, but honestly, the reason why I created Learn with Nic is because I felt that we had to have that content because I couldn't really find it. And the stuff I would find, right? You find a lot of stuff on platforms, like Coursera and all these LinkedIn Learning and Udemy, right? All these platforms have content, but it's pretty outdated. We are helping a company right now take 300 of their Linux administrators, kind of stuck in time, maybe 10 years behind. And those guys are struggling. They're struggling, and they wanna be able to be modernized. They're moving from an on-prem, legacy vSphere environment on Linux to a Kubernetes universe, multi-cloud hybrid. And we created a 6-week course, right, to take these guys from zero, really no experience whatsoever in Kubernetes and cloud native to a certified Kubernetes administrator, and for the cyber guys to a certified Kubernetes security specialist certificate. And so we partnered with a company that has some good training, and we created our own hands-on learning and kind of partnership. And I can tell you, it's a big lift, right, to take someone from zero to a junior level ready of Kubernetes in 6 weeks. And we're learning a lot by doing this, because we get feedback both from the trainees and from the trainer. And when we look at the training content that we found online, I can tell you often is stuck in time, maybe 3 years, and so Kubernetes 3 years ago was vastly different. Barely any mention of service mesh, barely any mention of GitOps and Argo, right? And so if you want to check out some of the content we have, right, we put a whole video on continuous delivery and continuous the deployment, for example. So if you want to check that out, I think that one is actually interesting to see, like, what does it take to move to full automation, to production, right? And then I find that of the videos that are seen the most and where people learn the most from the feedback we're getting is the videos we made on SREs and site reliability engineers and SLAs, service level indicators. So I'm gonna copy also these links, and again, go check the full catalog, right? Because we have so many videos on all these topics, and it's tough for me to cover all this stuff, right? That's why we spend hours of recording this stuff, because we were getting so many questions, right? And if you want to do a deep dive, it really takes about 15 minutes, per topic, to really cover all these things. And so check out the cyber engineering one. I think the other one that was mentioned to me a lot of people don't know much about, from what I was told, is the toll budget video. So check out here. I'm going to put that as well. Um, that toil video here. Okay, so check that out. I think that's a great video to be able to know how to measure your toil. What does toil mean first? What is it? Why you must track it, and why you must get rid of it and automate it away, and why it's so essential to do that rapidly and continuously, and never spend more than 50% of your time uh, on uh, on uh, on toil. So take a look at that as well. All right, let's see. We've got a bunch of questions here. All right, let's see. So, Sia had a great question here. I'm going to post that one on the chat so you can see it. Here we go. All right, so optimization and cost decisions trade off are something I really love to see as a component in Learn with Nick, especially for cloud based deployment. That's a great idea for video. There is a lot of challenges when it comes to tracking costs. I would argue everybody overspend in cloud spending, and most people are not tracking. And cloud providers are providing some tooling, but honestly, they do it in a very poorly designed way on purpose, probably to make sure you're spending a bunch of money on their services, right? And so, and it goes beyond that, right? In terms of auto scaling and flexibility and tooling, and it's getting tricky, right? Because you have a lot of tools that started open source, and then when you become a meaningful consumer of the tool as an enterprise, you're going to realize pretty quickly you're going to need the enterprise license. And there's a new name for it called the COSS, COSS, commercial open source software, which is always funny to me. I'm a fan of the person that created the name, very small, you know, person, and VC and all that stuff, but it's kind of a scam, right? Because effectively, what they're telling you already, it's a cost, but disguised as an open source software. But really, if you want to use it in a meaningful way, you need a license of the product, and so that's just interesting. And you see it a lot in DoD, usually for two reasons. They make the FIPS compliance validation part of the commercial product, and they make uh, uh, all the advanced or even basic identity management with RBAC and integration with SAML and all the stuff you expect of an enterprise. They make that a paid feature, right? And so you have to buy the license, and that's interesting. And so, of course, there's another aspect of, okay, when you start thinking about cost, you see a lot of products charging per node, per user, some even per container. Although the most common billing models are usually per node or per user, right? Um, and that's always tough, because the more you scale, the more you pay, and it can get out of control pretty quick, and it compounds the more tools you have. And quite honestly, when we look at we did a video on the CI/CD tools and all the different tools you need to have, even in a basic pipeline. You're gonna have a chat, you're gonna have a Git repo, You can have collaboration tool, which sometimes could be your Git repo, like something like GitLab could give you, CI and project management. And hopefully you don't have to use Atlassian, so you're not using something that has 1,400 CVEs. So you have all these things, and all of these tools have licenses and costs. And then you start adding cyber tools, so static SaaS, DAST, IaaS, container security scanning, policy as code, policy enforcement point for zero trust, right? All these things. If you start getting into data tools, often you pay based on the size of the data, which is even more scary to me. Even more when you host it on premise, or at least on your cloud, and you're paying for the compute. I always remind people that I'm a big believer in cloud, but I'm also very scared about multi-tenancy. And so for things like identity management, um, Git repos, and policy enforcement point of zero trust, I tell people not to use, cloud services, right, as multi-tenant. So you can bring it on your cloud enclave as a single tenant, right? Um, so yeah. Um, so we'll probably try to think about, you know, optimization, cost, decision, trade-off. It's a pretty broad topic. I love if you have, I guess, a piece of that as a desired, you know, cover of content. If you know maybe where you want this to go, because it's such a broad topic. I'm just afraid we need to cut it into a few videos, because it's too much in one, probably. So we're gonna definitely put it on the list. So thank you for sharing. And again, like I said, if you have ideas of videos, right? We have a long list. I'm gonna bring it up so you can share with you some of the ideas. We also are working with a few friend of mine that that will do their master classes effectively on the Learn with Nick platform. You're gonna get one on architecture, so that you guess who that's gonna be. The great architecture, microservices, modern weapon architectures, open architecture, all that good stuff. And we're gonna have one on cyber slash zero trust. I'll let you guess who that is too. And we're gonna get one on contracting and agile contracting and agile, acquisition. And I'll let you guess who that is too. What's also coming is videos on different topics like domain-driven design, test-driven development. We're gonna have some on the Kubernetes, custom resource CRDs. We're gonna have one on air gap CI/CD. We're gonna have one on next generation access control. We're gonna have one on continuous monitoring, telemetry versus logs. We just released one on digital twin. If you missed it, we're gonna have a deep dive on OSCAL. We're gonna have one on safe, or why not use it, I guess. And one about securing your software supply chain. So there's a lot of great content coming. And for people that missed it, some of the top videos that we see really resonating with people, I'm going to give you some of those numbers. But, fail fast, don't fail twice for the same reason. I think it's a great video. The zero trust video, the three modern cyber pillars: shift left, cyber testing, compliance, right? The cloud native access point. What is a service mesh? What is GitOps? The spaces for F-35, also very successful video. So yeah. And, the data centricity security video. So we explain how we label data down to the cell level, and that's a great video on applying zero trust down to the data, right? So that's always fun. Let's see what else we got. I got a lot of questions here. Sorry. Um, so Sibira was asking if a company like Red Hat wants to get a product to be used at DoD, such as OpenShift. what are the steps and activities they would have to follow to successfully break through and get onboarded. Um, well, obviously Red Hat is already doing pretty well. They kind of were the most adopted solution until they messed up with their launch of OpenShift 4, when the air-gapped version wasn't working properly, and they took a year to fix it. And in the meantime, most projects moved to Rancher, and so now Tuesday, I guess, but and Day2IQ. But for any product in Duty, the first step really is to get. There's a couple of steps. One is, if you're a big company like Red Hat, it's easy. You have the sales team and stuff. But if you're a startup, you want to start with maybe finding the right reseller partners. Companies like DLT, Carasoft can help you, sell to federal agencies and open the door for you for meetings and things like that. You're gonna have to pay them to have sales teams dedicated to you, and you should do that. That's the thing with doing work with the DoD and the government. You can't do it half baked. You have to go all in. So I always tell people, don't do it if you're gonna go halfway. So having a reseller team so they can put you on contract vehicles is kind of a good step. Then of course getting accredited. So if you have a container, get it approved on Iron Bank so you can be accredited and meet all the requirements to be able to run on the classified environments. Um, I have a list. I've helped about 750 products now get accredited. So there's something we've done a lot. So if you have questions, always feel free to ask. But effectively, we walk them through the container onboarding guide. I'll show you that link of the Iron Bank repo one repo there, and then these here the hardening guide. I'm going to put that on the chat so you can check it out. You can just Google Iron Bank repo one here. You'll see it. Um, so check that out. There's a step-by-step guide on how to get your container approved and what you need to do that. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty not rocket science. The most important, of course, I would argue, if you want to be able to run your capability completely air gapped, if you're going to be dependent on SaaS services, you're going to be stuck to the N class world, and for DoD, it's a tiny portion of the budget. So I would advise you go either fix that and be able to run air gaps on the classified side, or you just focus on other agencies like the VA or IRS or other agencies that don't care as much about classified workload, right? So think about that. But you know, getting accredited and making sure your product runs air gapped and being on contract vehicle, and that's the acquisition piece is so important to make it an easy purchase, right? So never forget that. Um, so yeah. All right. So by the way, if you're on the chat on Learn with Nick, and if you're not on LinkedIn, I'm trying to copy stuff from LinkedIn too, but feel free to paste your questions on either platforms so I can see them to share them with the group here. All right, let's see what else we got. Um, so Alexander was saying it would be great to have some kind of a roadmap describing the journey of your content, where to start, what to look at next, give it a nice structure. So we created personas on Learn with Nick. So I don't know if that's what you mean, but let me know if that's what you mean. But if you go on Learn with Nick and you go into playlists, there is one that's everything, one that's created for developers, for operators like SREs, CISOs, cyber experts, CIOs, CTOs, and one for C-level managers, less technical people. But what's interesting there is that you'll see that not only we made playlists, but they have a very specific order to follow, so you can track, what to learn and what to focus on. So check out, for example, this playlist here. And I'm going to post it on LinkedIn too, so you can see it since you're on LinkedIn. But here you can see we have playlists, and they're already created for that person, right? So um, that's kind of the step by step, and you see we start with the basics, and then there's overlap, right? It's tough sometimes, right? Because when I explain service mesh, you need to understand enough about Kubernetes and cycle container. So we have a cycle container video, right? And then we have a service mesh video with a proxy and ESQ and all that good stuff. So we try to make it so it's something digestible, you know. But if you find the order not to be obvious, or if you find, I had people reach out to me and tell me, hey, we had to Google this, or we didn't know this stuff, so maybe we need to make a video in the middle, to do a deep dive on something. So let us know. So Dan was asking, how does the DoD have a standard for response timelines associated with CVs? Where do I find it, if so? The DoD does not have one, but we created one with Iron Bank. And so we created SLAs and expectations. If you go, it's on ironbank.dso.mil, there's documentation there. So you have to create an account. So I'm going to post the link here. You go on login.dso.mil, you create an account, and then you go on the ironbank.dso.mil, and then you look at the new areas of approval of the containers. You're going to see that we have expectation of remediation for high criticals, and kind of based on the severity of the findings and the volume of findings, we ask the companies to fix it, to be approved and follow those SLAs. So that's the response timelines we decided. Honestly, it's very subjective based on discussions we had with industry. I think it's pretty easy right now. It's pretty too easy for companies. I would argue, sometimes we give them too much time to fix stuff. So, but it's pretty good stuff. So if you want to start there, do that. Go on that. And I'm trying to find a direct link, but it's all. I need to log in, and I don't have my login here. With my phone. So check it out. But there is a lot of great documentation explaining the expectation, right? So check that out. I think I put the right link, so it should be good. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, and Chris is bringing up this pathfinderva.gov. It's a great site. It's pretty cool that the VA was able to do this. For companies that want to do business with the VA, you can go there and you have access to all the documentation you need. And honestly, for startups, it's a lot of work. It's not something I would want to do. So for me, for Learn with Nic, I partnered, with DLT, and we're going in together as a team, and DLT is going to be helping me to be on contract vehicles and things like that. So that's just a better way to go. Um, yeah, and Chris has another good point here, right? He says that too many companies, decide not to do business with the DoD and the government, but we don't have that luxury, right? China is really kicking our asses. They have 120 million science and technology professionals. They're starting to train kids at 7 years old on AI. You know, we need to have the best of the best. We need to have all the capabilities we have access to on the commercial side in the government, and so we need to have that. And you need to do what it takes as a company to do business with the DoD. It's not about killing babies or getting your hands covered in blood like some of the nonsense I hear on the Silicon Valley bubble, who obviously benefit from the sacrifices made by the warfighter. So it's all about you know being being a making sure that our kids have a fighting chance at winning against China 20 years from now, and making sure they don't have to learn Mandarin to survive. So, all right, Sibit has a question here. What is the future of local no-code solutions that might eliminate the need for operational CI/CD? So, I'm actually not a big fan of local no-code solutions that bypass my CI/CD pipeline. The reason, and full disclosure, I'm on the board of Crowdbotics, which is a local no-code solution, and it's actually funny because I hate local no code, right? And so for me to join the board of a company that is a local no code solution, it had to solve and address all the problems I had with it, right? And they did, right? And what they managed to do is pretty incredible because they took all my objections and everything I had against local no code and addressed it. And that's why I joined their board because I felt like, wow, you're really solving the problem here. So what they do, right, is look at no code solutions. Usually, like you said, is a black box bypassing your build server, all your CI/CD pipeline, your cyber checks, everything is now you know handled by the local no code solution. But honestly, it's just not good, right? And it's often very basic stuff, very basic security, and it's something I would use for very basic applications, certainly not for something meaningful. Uh, but what Crowdbotics did is they actually connect and really push everything in Git, and so the code generated is just code in Git, and so while they abstract it and they make it easy for you to write the code to begin with, what you get in Git is something you can use even outside of the Crowdbotics platform, and it's just such a game changing capability, and then it ties to your CI/CD pipeline, so then you don't bypass your CI/CD pipeline, and I love that. I think it's a little bit foolish to think that companies can completely have a complete shadow IT CI/CD pipeline mechanism. Of course, if you don't have a CI/CD pipeline, they give you one. But I would argue anyone serious about software, you have to have a decent understanding of CI/CD, and that's why we open source, platform one, and that's why I made a video also on how to create a platform team or leverage existing platform work for a startup, so they don't have to do it in a vacuum, and so we have a video on how to make sure you're not building software in a vacuum. And we have a video on how to build the right platform team so that they can do that and empower the development team to focus on building software, right? Which I think is so important, right? It's effectively a it's an essential foundational capability for you to succeed in building software if you don't have DevSecOps. All right, so Sam has a question here. So check out what we've done on the local and no code videos stuff, and we're probably gonna make more videos on that. So the company is called Crowdbotics that I sit on the board of. Crowdbotics, and I'm gonna put it on the chat so you can see this here. And honestly, no one can buy me out. If I join the board of a company, it's really because they have great people, they have a great product, and they really don't push the vendor lock-in toxic behavior of some companies you see on the market. So, for me to change my mind on low-code, no-code solution, they really had to check all the boxes, and they did, and they do. So yeah. So Sam had a question here: is there one-to-one relationship between FedRAMP compliance versus having the product compliant for DoD L4, L5? No, and that's a problem. Okay, that's why I was always very mad at this stuff and talked a lot to Greenwell. Roger Greenwell, who is the authorizing official at DISA for all this stuff. DISA decided not to use reciprocity when it comes to FedRAMP. If you go FedRAMP moderate, you can only get L2 equivalent for DoD. If you want to get L4 or 5, you need to probably have FedRAMP high and pass the the this assessment process, which has additional controls specific to L4 and 5, and 5 obviously is even more controls. And so you need FedRAMP High, and then you need additional controls. And that's because DoD keep thinking it's a special beast in software, and they keep doing that instead of doing the right thing, which would have been to make sure that FedRAMP is designed the way it should have been to begin with, to address the DoD requirements for the FedRAMP High requirements. And more importantly, if you're going to do business on the high side, and you're going to have containers and things running on the secret fabric, on the SAP, on the top secret fabric, on the SAP fabric, you're going to need additional controls. And FedRAMP won't help you whatsoever with your secret and top secret fabric. And so that's why we did the Iron Bank process, because with Iron Bank, you are going through the process all the way to SAP with one assessment, right? And it's reusing NIST 853 controls. Very likely you're gonna want to be, high, moderate, which means high confidential, high integrity, and moderate availability. So you're gonna have to meet a good 1200 controls. But if you're on Kubernetes on top of platform one, you're inheriting a good 85% of those controls. So really the delta is pretty small. A lot of stuff doesn't apply, right, to you. If you're a piece of software on top of Big Bang, you inherit the infrastructure, the cloud provider, existing accreditation, all the on-premise or the weapon, hardware accreditation already for the compute and the backups and all that stuff, right? So there's a lot of great things by doing that, right? So really, I do recommend that you actually go through the hardening process of Iron Bank. So then you can actually do your FedRAMP, and you can do your, 4, 5, 6, and then, you can even go all the way to SAP. Maybe we need to make a video on that. We don't really cover that. So I'm gonna put that on the list. How to be accredited in DoD FedRAMP versus certificate to field, um, versus CATO. And we have a video on CATO, so I'm going to put the link. If you missed it, you should check it out, because that video is really explaining the the essential piece of accreditation and how we think about it. Although you may have heard that Danny Holzman is leaving the department, uh, which is a disgrace because they did not renew his contract, and so he's gonna have to leave. And we're losing the only authorizing official who really accredited the Kessel Run, the Platform One, the F-35, the GBSD stuff. It's gonna be a big loss. But check out the video on CATO. Okay, here. Um, yeah, and Chris has a great post there, and he put a link on the LinkedIn chat, um, to get into the Pathfinder VA program. VA is such an important mission. I was reading about I think it's 22 veterans committing suicide every day. That's a real problem, and it's kind of disgraceful that we let, as a nation, this happen. Um, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And I'm gonna try to see myself how I can help a little bit more. It's a little bit outside of what I know, and it's not really my expertise. But if I can raise awareness, or if I can maybe find a way to help the VA, and look, the VA employees are really doing their best to fix some of this stuff. I think they vastly improved the capabilities of the VA in the last, I would say, 2-3 years. Really, I've seen a big improvement, starting with my friend who was appointed as the assistant secretary of for DevSecOps, which was a pretty big win for the VA. That's a pretty unique role. Not many. I don't know if any other agency having an assistant secretary uh, for DevSecOps, right? Tom Simpson, you know, was the is the assistant secretary for DevSecOps, so it's pretty good. So yeah, let's see what else we got. Um, so again, I have 4 minutes. So if you have last minute questions, you can post it. But I have a couple here. I hope this was first. I hope that was useful. We've not done any of these live AMA since I left the government, really, because in the nick of time is with the guests, and so I ask questions to the guests, so you don't get to ask me questions. So that helps. We're going to do this every 2 weeks as part of the Learn with Nic community. So I hope you see value in that, and we're going to have guests too to bring some of the master classes guests we're going to have on the show. So it's going to be great. If you think of someone that could be a great masterclass, speaker for topics that I don't have already, it'd be great if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Okay. And Chuck has a question here. Is there a limitation to Platform One resellers? Wouldn't having more resellers be a benefit to the health of Platform One? Well, so resellers didn't go the way I was hoping it would go after I left. And so it kind of became really problematic because I was the only one really pushing from the inside leads and engagements with Platform One. And so kind of the momentum and the excitement already took a hit after I left. And so, you know, um, the reseller, we picked company that we knew could do the work and get it done. And there's not enough demand even for those. So having more wouldn't really be helpful. Um, there was a ton of demand when I was in the government. We had so much demand. We needed so many people, and unfortunately, what you've seen is a lot of programs go back to waterfall. It's very concerning to me. You've seen a lot of critical duty programs either go back to waterfall or even go back to doing stuff in vacuums. I heard today, for example, the F-35 that was supposed to use Platform One, and Gunny General Schmidt took over F-35, coming from PEO C3INN, and which is running Platform One, right? And unfortunately, I heard that F-35 is not using Platform One in any meaningful way. Instead of building the Amazon enclave in a vacuum, so that's just not good. So, we had so many companies excited about the Platform One. I see so many healthcare and telco and banks use Platform One nowadays. I'm helping a lot of them. They reach out to me directly, and so anyone can really, help. I know a lot of companies helping using Platform One that are not resellers. Okay, so you don't have to be a reseller to be able to help Platform One engagements. Okay, so um, yeah. So we're out of time, but I hope that was a great session for you guys. We're gonna keep the question we couldn't answer. We had at least 20 more questions. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us, asking questions. If in 2 weeks we're gonna have another session. Okay, so we're gonna announce it. It's gonna be probably Thursday in 2 weeks. Okay, so join us, ask questions. If you want, think about topics of videos we have not covered, let us know, okay? Because we always want to release a new video every week, every other week. So we want to keep up with that pace and make sure we have a fighting chance at winning against China 20 years from now. Meanwhile, you stay healthy and you keep pushing the good fight. And if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, do that and reach out to us with any questions. We're always here to help you. If you're trying to do business with DoD, if you're struggling with some of the questions we talked about, reach out to us anytime. We're here to help you. So stay safe. See you soon. And don't forget next Tuesday, Cal Fox, 1 p.m. on Tuesday, to talk about the rise of software-defined weapons. It's going to be fun, talking about nuclear stuff and jets and stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Stay safe, guys. Bye-bye.